What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Go Talk with Marcus, powered by Podex, fueled by Go Fuel. This would be episode 73 of season 2, and I think that makes this episode 206 or 7 or something like that overall. There's a lot of episodes, and it's hard to keep track sometimes. Once again, joining the show is my guy, Martin Soaries of Basketball Society. What's up, man? How you doing?
All is well. I'm great. Always good to tap in with you, man. How are you?
I'm feeling really good. It's been a great couple of days for me personally. The last time I watched basketball, I watched my Aces win the WNBA championship, which was great. And Chelsea Gray played amazing and rightfully deserved. And then I think it was yesterday or maybe 2 days ago. I know they're overseas, like the timing is weird. At some point this week, the U.S. Women's National Team won the FIBA World Cup, and A'ja Wilson was named MVP for that. So that was all cool. So it's been, as an A'ja Wilson fan, it's been great. As an Aces fan, it's been great. And also, like, shout out to Dawn Staley because South Carolina's women's basketball team was supposed to open their season up against BYU. I think it was at BYU, and she canceled that game because of everything that happened with the volleyball player at Duke that got heckled with racial slurs and stuff. So, like, it's just been a great day for me and week for me and all of the teams that I'm affiliated with, at least from a women's basketball standpoint. It's been great. I've enjoyed all of it. It's been fantastic.
That's great, man. Yeah, it's basketball time. It's really about to be heavy basketball time with NBA, obviously. But yeah, I mean, WNBA season finished strong. And our girls took it over there. Team USA, they took the gold over there. So yeah, we're sitting pretty right now.
And before we start, I know we were talking on Instagram about because you posted the video of the guy that was doing the imaginary basketball. It's incredible, dude. There's nothing better than like just walking up to your trash can, just like hitting the cross and then hitting a mean fake. Like there's nothing.
The second comment let me know that you really related. I mean, clearly you took but the second comment you got real specific. Like that's
there's nothing better.
That's what that's like.
There's a mean cross and then a fade,
like cross in the air and the mean fade away. I mean, yeah, the bag is ultimate against air. The bag is ultimate.
Oh yeah, 100%. So we're going to talk about a lot today. Originally, this episode was just going to be to talk about the NBA Top 100 and kind of preview the season. But then I was on Twitter, and I was on TikTok, and I was on Reddit, and I saw a couple of things that I thought were pretty interesting. We were talking about some legends of the game, so I had to bring on the OG so we can talk about this. One of the things was Allen Iverson, and whether or not Allen Iverson as a basketball player specifically is overrated, right? You hear a lot of people say that Allen Iverson is the greatest pound-for-pound player at his height at basketball I've ever seen. A lot of people think that he is the greatest basketball player under 6'3", right? I saw a thing on Twitter the other day, and I saw someone on TikTok react to it. They ranked all of the scoring champions in NBA history based on how many points they scored and then their efficiency. And all 4 of Allen Iverson's scoring champion seasons were ranked amongst the worst as far as efficiency is concerned. And it kind of sparked a little debate about, is Allen Iverson appreciated more so because of what he did on the floor or more so because of the cultural impact as far as the sleeves and the tattoos and the not wearing the suits to game day and all that stuff. So I wanted to get your opinion on it because I don't really have an opinion. I just thought it was kind of interesting. And you're the OG. You saw Allen Iverson play basketball. By the time I came about, Allen Iverson was in a Nuggets uniform, I think.
Okay. I mean, you didn't experience time like that, obviously.
Yeah, that we know and love, right? I mean, but I didn't live through it. But so you lived through it. So would you say that Allen Iverson's like legend is more so the off-court legend, or do you think the praise that he gets on the floor, obviously, going up against the Lakers in the finals and still getting that one game and all that, like, do you think it's warranted? How do you view Allen Iverson's legend as a basketball player, I guess?
No, it's both. Honestly, it's both, bro. You can't talk about one really without the other. Like, I mean, you can talk about his off-court swag and the cultural influence and stuff and kind of make that separate from basketball. But the only reason that was so dope was because he would show up in street clothes, do-rag and all that. And then on the court, it was what Allen Iverson did for so many players, specifically street ball players.
Sure.
Even though he didn't originate from street ball, his game was very street ball-esque. So the wide crossover and the shifty handles and stuff, that appealed to a lot of street ball players, young players coming up trying to get their handle right. So it wasn't just about, I mean, you had to be a certain level of talent and player to even have a cultural influence.
Right.
To have that level of cultural influence. So you can't be just somebody off the bench and then he show up and do right, that would be a completely different story. Right. It was because he was 6 foot, cooking everybody, finishing at the basket in ridiculous ways. I mean, scoring wise, like what I always loved about Iverson, and just full disclosure, honestly, you know me by now. I was a Michael Kobe guy. So since I was a Kobe guy specifically, Iverson was one of the guys that kind of challenged Kobe. You had Iverson fans, you had Kobe fans, you had T-Mac fans, and then LeBron fans came along, of course. So there's always that kind of internal fan war going on. So Iverson versus Kobe was kind of a thing.
Right.
You tend to have like kind of smaller guards and smaller players who flock more towards Iverson, and kind of taller, longer, lankier guys like me love Kobe, so you kind of tend to see that. But what was so dope to me still about Iverson, and people, guys in college would sometimes tell me like, yo, you have some AI to your game, kind of, because but Iverson he was a flat out scorer, man. And even though he wasn't like a knockdown shooter, the kind of shots that he would hit were only shots that a high level scorer, high level even shooter can even make. So you don't think of him as a shooter, of course, but the man, but the look at how, I mean, he wasn't just going to the basket all the time. Like AI, when you look at the difference between guys like him, like, Derrick Rose got better at shooting. He kind of developed a jump shot. Westbrook has never really gotten consistent with it. We just think of the like explosive, and not to say Iverson athletically was like on those guys' level, but Iverson was a crazy athlete. Those guys took it to another level explosive wise, but Iverson was a special athlete. But he was one of those downhill, break you down guards that could also, he wasn't just scoring a bunch of points going to the basket. He was also knocking down contested shots off the dribble. He got to the free throw line. He hit his free throws. I don't know percentages or anything, but the man lived at the free throw line mostly because he would go to the basket so aggressively. So no, Iverson's legend is going to live on, because anytime you talk about elite small guards, his name has to come up, because before Steph, Iverson was the most lethal. You can talk Isaiah, you can talk all kinds of guys, but like the AI, but that's why they say pound for pound, because at 6 foot, he was the most lethal, unstoppable small guard we had ever seen.
So since we're on the topic, you had posted on Instagram, I think last week or maybe a week and a half ago at this point, KD had tweeted about like what makes your bag. Is it the different ways that you can score, or is it the dribble moves? And you and I kind of had a conversation. I kind of said that it might be a little bit of both, right? Like like individual, like there could all together be like 3 different bags. Like there's your dribbling bag, like what you can do with the, like when you have the ball in your hands as far as being able to create separation. Then there's of course what you have in your arsenal as far as shooting the basketball. And then there's like the bag, like this is his offensive bag. And it kind of has all those things together. And also includes like your playmaking, your court vision, and all those kind of stuff like that, right? If you had to rank like the top bags in the NBA today, who are the 5 guys that you think have the best bags in the NBA? We're talking just like all around offense, because we know Kyrie and Curry have, they're they're the best as far as handles are concerned, right? And then you talk about the shooting bag, you have to look at KD, you have to look at, I think you still have to look at LeBron, even though he's not a scorer. We kind of talk about that as well. But all around offensive bags, who would be the 5 guys that you think have the deepest bags in the league today?
I love that. First of all, can I ask you something? Did you play basketball at all, Marcus? Did you ever hoop?
I played. I was the 6th man on my middle school basketball team, and I played JV basketball in high school, but there wasn't enough people on the JV team, so they didn't have a JV team. So I didn't really play that much basketball, but most of my basketball has been like church picnics, pick up with friends at the park and things like that. I haven't played much organized basketball.
And you grew up watching it, obviously. I mean, you
grew up watching basketball. A lot of basketball, yeah.
People like you just fascinate me, man, because you talk about to talk about the bag in basketball, like having a bag, and for you to, even the way you replied to the story when we were talking about that KD tweet, the way your answer was so spot on. Like that was really the best overall kind of, and I got a lot of people were responding with that kind of answer, but to me, that's the closest thing to the right answer. Like it's a combination of different things, and the fact that you understand that is just very, very fascinating to me.
I try to study a lot of different things.
Yeah, no, that's why you're good at what you do, and you're gonna be even greater.
I appreciate
Top five bags in the NBA. Given even what you just said, because I agree, it's a combination of like bag. I think the first thing we think of is handle, your bag.
Sure.
Right. But that also, to what you said, influences how you get shots off, which is another bag, your shot creation bag. And yeah, like to me, I do think IQ depends on who you're talking to and how you're talking about it, but IQ can kind of play into your bag.
Sure.
Passing can play into your bag. So top five bags. I love this, by the way. I love this because this isn't top five best players. This isn't top five best handles, even though we agree handles is probably the closest thing you would associate to a bag.
Yeah, for sure.
The top five best handles and top five best bags to my list would be probably some similar people, but they're different. I would have to think differently. In no order.
Okay.
I do think. I mean, Kyrie is in there.
Sure.
Kyrie is top five bags, absolutely. I'm going to say Steph Curry has a top five bag between shooting and ball handling. He's got to be top five.
Right.
Kevin Durant has to be top five bags.
Right.
My other two, this is where it kind of gets interesting. I think my other two, I'm going, this is going to be tough. I want to put James in there. I want to put James Harden in there because okay, so I'm fluctuating between James Harden, Devin Booker, and Paul George.
You know, Paul George is super duper.
Paul George is not. There are some players who are
thinking the word after that because
I asked the kid I'm training recently, this girl, to see if she understood what I meant by this. I said, yo, do you want to be like really good? Like, do you want to be like great? Like, do you want to be good or do you want to be nice?
Yes.
She didn't really know how. I'm like, please say nice. Please say
nice.
Paul George is super nice. No matter what happens in his career, I don't care if he ever wins a ring. Personally,
yeah,
I will be showing my kids and more. I will make sure they know Paul George. That man is just nice. He's got the bag. So oh man. Because Devin Booker has a scoring bag that I think is a little underrated, even though he scored 71 in a game before. Like I still
and the fact that
I don't know, I feel like people still don't really give him.
Booker is the only guy active in the NBA to have scored 70 points in a basketball game is ridiculous. When you think about the prolific score, like we're talking about Kevin Durant, we're talking about Steph Curry who can shoot the lights out of the building. We're talking about Klay Thompson, who gets hot from three like that. Like all of these great players, and Devin Booker is the only guy of all those. James Harden, when he was in Houston, like he's the only active player in the league today that scored at least 70 points in a basketball game. It's kind of absurd to think about because he was, and people are like, oh, well, it's because he was the best player on a bad Suns team. Yeah, I don't care. He still, and it's phenomenal.
No, Devin Booker, in terms of his scoring ability, everything. Yo, bro, anytime I watch Devin Booker film, I'm like in awe, honestly. It's smooth. It's crafty. His shooting is just so high level. I've talked about this before. Like he's a high level shooter, like damn near Klay Thompson level. But what he does off the dribble separates him from, he is way more of a gifted overall scorer than a Klay. And I love Klay, and I think he can do different things. And I'm not saying he's one dimensional, but Devin Booker brings you the complete package as far as scoring, and he's a high level shooter. I love what Book does. I would say honorable mention are guys like CJ McCollum, who's someone else I was thinking of. Like DeMar DeRozan has a bag.
Yep.
Kawhi grew his bag. He developed his bag a little bit more, and it's crazy because this conversation, this whole topic kind of ties into that James Harden Giannis thing.
Yeah.
You know, when Harden was talking about, I have to actually use my skill set and even with the Giannis conversation now, a lot of that goes to the bag, Giannis's bag. What do we care? And I'll go back, like we said, like Giannis had any basketball player, especially in the NBA, has a bag. Like there's different, your bag could just be your game. You know what I mean? Like, so whatever your game is, like that's your bag. That's your bag. You know, there's different kinds of bags. There's different levels of bags. You know, everybody don't have a Gucci or a Balenciaga. You know what I'm saying? Some people like everybody can't afford that. So, but everyone's got a bag. Everyone's got a backpack or something. We all got a bag, right? Giannis's bag is not Harden's bag. It's not, you know, but he's got his own bag in his own way. And they all, like, again, Kawhi. Look at what Kawhi did with his offensive bag. He developed that into when he started, bro. 2 years ago in Toronto, I was like, yo, who knew he had all of this off the dribble, ending the play, 5-6 dribbles, get to the spot, pull up. Like he like, dang, bro, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. So here's my thing about I agree with you 100%. Like I think it's perfect, and I was talking to a friend about this the other day. Paul George came into the league as a shooting guard. And like because of his size, like because like the players ended up getting put around him, he kind of moved to the small forward position. And I don't think a lot of people recognize that is. But like Paul George is, I guess, by all intents and purposes, a shooting guard. It's kind of hard to place players nowadays because it's positionless and everybody can do a little bit of everything. But the individual value of certain like shots and certain things a player brings to the table has kind of changed over time, right? Because in the 80s. When people weren't shooting that many threes, right? Like the mid-range and layups and things, that was the highest value shot. And when you're a kid, I didn't play much organized ball, but like the one thing they always say is you always go for the open layup, right? Like that was kind of like the fundamental thing is when you're on a fast break, you go for the open layup. Now you see people spotting up from three and making it. And that has a lot to do with how Steph Curry has changed the game. If you had to rank, like you personally had to rank what you value most as a passer, as far as what you would look for from the standpoint of what's the most valuable thing to get in a basketball game today, what would that be? Would it still be for you the open layup? Would you look for the open mid-range? You're looking for the open, like what is, by your estimation, the most valuable shot to take in today's era of basketball?
It's definitely the 3-point shot. I mean, it's gotta be. It's gotta be. Steph has changed everything. And when you're at the top of the totem pole, whatever your style of play is tends to trickle down. That's what I believe. And yeah, Steph has changed that. It's the 3-point shot, man. You know, basketball has gone through a lot of different eras, different like main primary styles of play that you're trying to incorporate. Right now, it's about positionless basketball, versatility at the college level. I was with my little cousin is committed to Marist College 2023. We were there for his official visit yesterday. They've got a 6'10", 6'11" kid over there that's versatile, puts it on the floor, left-handed, he could shoot it. And with their recruitment, all they're talking about is finding bigs that can shoot it. When it comes to bigs, they want big, like, and look, you can find your kind of rim runners. You can still find your bigs that want to bang and do stuff like that. But if you want to right now, in the way the climate is right now in the game, whether you're a middle school team or you're a Division II college basketball team, whatever, the more players you have on the floor that can shoot, that can space the floor, and that can hit shots from 1 through 5, the more dangerous you're going to be. And that's the climate right now. That's what people want.
Makes perfect sense. So we're talking about versatility. And I think probably one of the biggest names in the history of basketball that gets that versatile label attached on him is Magic Johnson because of his size and because of what he can do as a point guard. But there's been a lot of talk about whether or not Magic Johnson could actually play and or guard the 1 through the 5, right? Because a lot of times we talk about Magic in that first finals run with the Showtime Lakers, how he got finals MVP. A lot of people cite, well, he played the 1 through the 5 in that series. And if you go back and you kind of watch the games of that series and you go back and you look at the stat sheet of that series and see how things trickled up, Magic Johnson jumped the 5 in that game that he played the 5, but he didn't guard the Philadelphia 76ers center that game. He didn't guard anybody on the 1s or the 2s throughout the course of the series. So another debate that pops up on Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit is the legendary stories we hear of these all-time great players, does that exaggerate and some of this AI make them a bit overrated? Like, because Magic was a 6'9" point guard, right? And he could pass the ball, and his IQ was second to none at the time. And I'd say if he doesn't have the greatest IQ of all time, the only person you put ahead of him would be one LeBron James, because LeBron James' IQ is just absolutely ridiculous. Like I still am in awe sometimes when I hear the interviews of like former teammates sit there and talk about how like he talks about things on the court before they happen, and then they literally unfold. It's second to none. It's insane. And the clip of him after the 2018 Eastern Conference Finals when he listed all 17 of their turnovers in order as they happened, ridiculous. Magic Johnson getting credit for being able to play the 1 through the 5 because he jumped the 5. Is that too much, or is that warranted in your eye? Like, do you think, I guess, in today's era or in any other era, Magic could successfully guard the 1 through the 5? Because he's never been, we never attributed defense to when we list all the great things about Magic, not just how great of a passer he was, how good of a playmaker he was, the leadership and the IQ, but we never associate defense with Magic Johnson. Is that supposed to be what's happening, or is the him lining up to jump the 5 in that first series, has that kind of, do you think that's been like it's taken a life of its own? It's overwhelmed facts over fantasy in a way.
I feel like I think JJ Redick says this a good amount. Any great player can exist in any era.
Sure.
It could exist and thrive in any era. If we can get specific about defense, because I can understand that. I'll try to keep this simple. Here's what I'll say. Magic Johnson, right? Mm-hmm. Not known for defense. That's not what we know him for.
Yep.
There's not these great photos of him sitting down, locking you up. Like, no, we didn't. That's not what we know him for. But what do we know about Magic? He was 6'9", and he had what you already alluded to, his IQ, an amazing IQ. And those two things, just those two things, being 6'9" and having IQ,
yep,
would make Magic a fine defender. Now, I'm not saying all defense, I'm not saying, but
sure,
he would do fine. He would do fine. Now, players are more athletic now, and they're faster, and they jump higher. So that's the hard thing about the eras too, is that you have to take that into account.
Right.
I have to give. I think I hear Max Kellerman say it a lot. Like, give those players today's treatment, training, nutrition, all that. So so that's a reimagining of what Magic would even be.
Yep.
Which I mean, that should be frightening to anybody to even consider. But if we want to just keep it to the Magic how we knew him and plop him into today's era, Magic would do fine. If someone like Jason Kidd can do okay, I mean, look, we have players in the NBA right now that we say can't play defense or don't play deep, like James Harden. But Magic is 6'9". He would be fine. There's somebody he could guard. He doesn't have to, bro. They hide Steph. They hide Harden. They hide, we have plenty of players that we trash their defense, and some of them are stars. We say they're not great defenders.
Yeah,
Magic would do fine. He was 6'9". He had one of the best IQs,
sure,
and he was too good offensively to keep him off the floor anyway. And he would cut today. Please give him LeBron. He's cutting anybody up still. So yeah, no, it's. I think we kind of overthink it.
Sure. So let's get into present day. The ESPN for the 12th consecutive year has released their projection for who the top 100 players at the end of next season will be. And there's a couple of interesting players and interesting spots that are worth discussing. So we'll ignore the top 10 for now because the top 10 I think is interesting and could lead into a very lengthy conversation. In the back half of the top 25, so from 25 to 15, we have Anthony Edwards, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, Chris Paul at 21. AD is top 20. Bradley Beal, Rudy Gobert, Jimmy Butler, Trae Young, Paul George rounds out the top 15 to 25 players. The thing that's causing in that section a lot of issues is Rudy Gobert being ranked ahead of Anthony Davis on the NBA, on ESPN's NBA Top 100. What is your reaction to?
I didn't hear that. I didn't know about that one. I heard what I kept hearing about all the backlash was like LeBron and KD and those guys.
That too. That's I think it's.
I since I started doing stuff like this and media and paying attention to sports and all that stuff, like I've slowly but surely just staying away from these lists because they're just so, I mean, they cause a ruckus every time. and people get mad, and rightfully so. And it's just, I mean, in some cases though, I feel like it's just tough when you're looking at certain criteria that those kinds of people look at with lists. They're taking into account that Anthony Davis barely played last season, and when he did play, he wasn't performing well.
Sure.
They might look at the numbers and say, well, Rudy Gobert played more games and he whatever. Like, I guess, but that's why I can't stand these lists like this, because when I talk about players, and I have to remind my friends and people all the time when we have conversations and debates, please establish for me what we're talking about. Because if you're asking me who's better between, Paul George and Jimmy Butler, I'm going to tell you who I think is better, not based on who's been to the finals and whose team is doing well and no, I'm going to tell you from a basketball perspective based on their bags.
Sure.
I'm going to tell you who I think is better.
Who do you think is better?
Maybe we'll look at numbers. Maybe we can to give supporting evidence, but I will tell you who I think is better. And by the way, I believe Paul George is better than Jimmy Butler. I take Paul George every day over Jimmy Butler. Nothing against Jimmy. He's great at what he does. But it's always about style, right? What style do you prefer? What do you consider? But and even separate from just style, I believe that Paul George is better than Jimmy Butler. I think he's a better shooter. He's taller. He's more creative. He's more crafty. I like more what Paul George does than what Jimmy Butler does. I think he's better.
So let's talk about honing on the top 10. The top 10 from 1 to 10 is Giannis, Jokic, Luka, Embiid, Curry, LeBron, Tatum, KD, Ja, and Devin Booker.
I don't understand how Steph is at number one. I'm like, just
that's an interesting conversation. And I got into this a little bit on Instagram, so I'm actually glad you brought that up. So Giannis, being the humble guy that he is, during media day for the Bucks, he said that Steph Curry's the best player in the world, right? And I saw someone on Instagram they said that we've never associated the reigning NBA, like the guy that just won the NBA championship, as the guy that is the best player in the world. And so I said, well, I don't think that's entirely true, because if you look back on, like, whether we like crown them officially at that time or they were already there and they kind of reestablished, like if we go back in the history books, very rarely has the best player in the world not been the one with their hands on the Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of the season. Like that's just not usually how it goes. Like usually the best player in the world is usually the one that is the champion. Unless
the best player in the league is the best player in the world.
Right. And that's usually how it goes.
And usually the best player in the league is the best player on the championship.
There have been exceptions.
Yeah.
Right? There have been instances when the best player in the world was not the champion, right? Like we can talk about Dirk in 2011 was not the best player in the world, but he won the championship, right? Ben Wallace in 2004 was not the best player in the world, but the Pistons won the chip. And we can go on and on and on about how, these things happen, right? Nonetheless, though, if you look back over the time of history, like you say, okay, in 2016, if you were ever on the fence about whether or not LeBron was the best player in the world heading into 2016, you come back down 3-1 to be, you only got to do that. That's the best player in the world, right? We can say the same thing about Giannis. Yeah, we always said Giannis was kind of on the cusp of being, and while there are some people like me that don't officially say that he is, after winning a chip in 2021, Giannis is the best player in the world. That's usually how it goes. There was a question about whether or not LeBron was still the best player in the world in 2020 in the bubble, and he won the champion. Like that's just how, that's usually how it goes. So if Steph Curry is not the best player in the world, who is the best player in the world? Like, is it Giannis? Is it KD? Is it Jokic? The current, like, who? If it's not Curry, who would have who would be able to stake the claim as the best in the world?
I personally feel like we're in a tight spot with this conversation, because this is where I'm at with it. And I don't know if anybody out there can relate to this at all. And this might be a little weird and controversial, but this is kind of how I feel with this. I truly, like, right now, I feel like you have to say Steph is the best player in the NBA.
Sure.
But I would say that Giannis or KD, if, like, to answer your question, if it's not Giannis, I think it's KD.
Okay.
Is the best player in the world.
And I'll die.
When I think of the best player in the world, I think of go to the Olympics or whatever it is, the World Cup or FIBA, whatever international competition we have in that time span, You have to go over there and dominate them, because what did Giannis also say? European basketball is harder than the NBA. That's from Giannis himself.
Giannis and Luka and Jokic, they bring that up all the time about how I saw Luka talk about how, like, on an individual standpoint, there are better individual defenders in the NBA than in Europe. From a team standpoint, teams defensively are better in Europe overseas than they are here.
Different way of dominating.
Much so, yeah.
It's a different way of dominating. It's the physicality is different. The rule, we saw KD go and dominate last year with last year's team. We saw KD do that. Just for me, I always took that into account, because I want to see you go over there and then dominate them too, to prove that you are that really, to me, and that, like, how could that not be the best indication that you are the best in the world at that time, right?
Sure.
Now, I would love to see. I think Steph could do that, but the team would have to really be built around him, because usually Team USA, I feel like we ride our horses, our LeBrons, our KDs, and then even like a Jason Tatum has to take a back seat. The James Harden has to take a back seat. Like, we really ride our horses, and our guards are always fire and elite, obviously, but they don't always they're not always front and center running the show.
We're usually riding our wings for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. So a team would have to be built around. They should just send the Warriors over there. Just be like, let's just let Golden State run. Maybe add, see if KD wants to run with them again. See if Bron wants to tap in.
Send the Warriors team over there.
Just so it's focused around. Just so they know that it's going to be focused around Steph. Now, even if Steph is with other top guys, I would love to see that, because I would want to see them defer to him, to be like, yo, you're the best player in the league right now. You're the guy. You put the ball in your hands. Pick and roll, pick and pop, lead it. Let's play the way you're used to playing with the Warriors. That would be dope. But that's where I am with it. I feel like we have a separation between who the best player in the league is, which I feel like it has to be Steph.
Right.
Who the best player in the world is, or might be, depending on who you are.
Sure. So you mentioned the LeBron James, Kevin Durant thing. LeBron is 6, KD is 8. And Stephen A went on a very long rant on first take after the list was announced, and he said about 15 times that he had nothing to do with it. He wanted to make sure that we all knew that he had nothing to do with the list, and he wasn't asked. Are there 5 players in the league today that are better than both LeBron and KD? Because I'd say there's one player for sure that's better than both. I can't name 5.
Right now, I say there's 2, because I feel like you have to give Steph that. That's Steph and Giannis.
Sure, that you could rank ahead and be like, that's fine. I can't name.
There's no way there's 5. There's no way. Who? Luka?
Well, according to ESPN, it's Jokic, Giannis, Embiid,
Jokic,
and Luka. Yeah.
I mean, Jokic is MVP. He's winning MVPs. So, but still, again, going back to what I said, what? No, bro, no. And all these guys are great. They're dope. I love Luka. I love Jokic. But that's what can be tough about the whole right now thing. Shannon Sharp loves to remind Skip, we're talking about right now, today, today. But that can be tough to say, because it's you have to take things into account. Right now, today, if you think Jokic is better than Kevin Durant, I don't know how I can talk to you. I don't know how can we talk about basketball if you're trying. I would just sit there confused, bro. I wouldn't even have the energy to respond to that. Yeah. And it's nothing against Jokic. I hate to make it seem like I'm putting that down, but it's bro, there's some things in this world that we have to be able to agree on and understand, right? Just the basics, Lord.
No, I think that should be one of the basics, is that there's not 5 players better than KD and LeBron. Kevin Durant and LeBron James, we're talking about a guy in LeBron James who, at 37 years old last season, averaged 30 points a game. Most 37-year-old basketball players in the NBA struggled to average 20, and he averaged 30. And if he didn't miss a 2 or 3 games down the stretch, he would have been the scoring champion, and he would have been the oldest scoring champion in the history of basketball last season if he doesn't miss 2 or 3 games here or there. So to say there's 5 players better than LeBron James, or to project that at the end of next season there'll be 5 players better than LeBron James, I think is a stretch. Now, as mentioned at the top, it is basketball season. The NBA season officially tips off on Tuesday, October 18th. At the time of this recording, it's Sunday, October 2nd, so we're about 16 days away. By the time this comes out, we'll be a little over a week and a half away from the NBA season. So let's talk about some NBA futures. Let's kind of get your projections. We'll do some start bitch cuts. We'll do some trading, things like that. Let's start by projecting. Let's start with the Timberwolves, because the Timberwolves have been the talk of the town in the Western Conference because of the acquisition of Rudy Gobert. Now they have Cat. They also have Anthony Edwards. Also in the Western Conference, John Wall is now a Los Angeles Clipper. He's joined forces with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to play for the other team in LA. So if you had to bet on which team will be better come season's end, will it be the Clippers with John Wall now or the Timberwolves with Rudy Gobert?
Oh, the Clippers for sure, because it looks like Kawhi Leonard is good to go and is healthy. And it looks like they're really trying to make this the year where we have everyone healthy, we're on it, and we feel it. I think they're locked in, and I think John Wall is really a great add to what they're trying to do because he has something to prove. I think he's back to having fun again and just playing, just hooping again, and I think he's in the right environment. I would say the Clippers. I'm still not sold on the Timberwolves. I mean, I want to see what Anthony Edwards keeps doing. He's clearly like becoming special as we speak. I'm still not sold on them. I don't think they're creative enough offensively. I think they're still a little stale. I don't really buy the whole Twin Tower thing with Cat and Rudy. It will make them a little strange and a little hard for some people to deal with. But in the age of small ball and the 3-point shot, I don't see that being the right direction for them. And the Clippers seem to be like, this is the year we're gonna put it together and put our best foot forward.
I agree. And my one issue with the Timberwolves is we've seen a similar movie to this before. Not the exact same contract, but we've seen a team have a great player that could attack the rim and have to move on from the big man that could do nothing but clog the paint. And that was the Houston Rockets when they had Russell Westbrook, Clint Capella, and James Harden. I don't think this is good for Anthony Edwards. Like, I think Anthony Edwards is super talented, but Anthony Edwards, as phenomenal as he is at a young age, has not yet developed a consistently efficient shot. He has.
True.
With Rudy Gobert in the paint, he's going to be forced to, in game, develop a consistently efficient shot, from whether it be mid-range, whether that be from 3-point range. That's he is his bag. That's kind of been the thing we've been talking about. Like, his bag is going to have to be forced to be developed in an exponentially quicker rate than I think it should be, because he's still young. We looked at Donovan Mitchell, we looked at Rudy Gobert in Utah. The one issue was, as great of a player Donovan Mitchell is, the one thing that kind of took away from Donovan Mitchell a little bit was he couldn't be that ferocious rim runner that he was in college, because Rudy Gobert is not a threat outside the paint. So Donovan Mitchell had to shoot more. And granted, he's like a 45, somewhere around there, percent shooter from three. So he's gotten better at it, and it's working for Donovan Mitchell. And it'll work for him in Cleveland as well. But I don't know. But Donovan Mitchell still had some polish to him. Like, he still had a lot more polish at that point than Anthony Edwards did. And it's not that I don't think Ant can do it. I don't know if you want to put your young guy in a scenario where a large chunk of his game that he relies on heavily is going to be a bit diminished. And the part of his game that he's not that good at right now, that he's still trying to improve, is going to have to become a focal point for his offense in order for this team to work. Because you're not going to win basketball games relying on Karl Anthony Towns.
Right.
And as solid as I think D'Angelo Russell is, you're not going to be able to win basketball games relying on D'Angelo Russell. Like, Anthony Edwards is going to have to be that guy for Minnesota. Yeah. So
I'm personally still waiting to see or hear Karl Anthony Towns start to really submit to that. I'm still waiting for that dynamic to flesh out, because Cat, I'm sure, feels he's their best player, and he probably has earned that up to this point. Ant is still young, but the talk is about Ant right now. Yeah, and what you said is spot on. He's got to become that guy. I mean, he should be. You can't hold him back. So I agree with you. I think that could become a tough situation for him.
So let's stay in the Western Conference. After trading away Taylor Horton-Tucker, which was kind of the key piece to potentially bringing Buddy Hield and Miles Turner from Indiana to the Lakers, it seems as if the Lakers are just going to stand strong with Russ and Pat Bev in this unit. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it that this team is successful and can potentially make it back to the finals as currently constructed?
I'm about a 5, honestly. I'm very. It's tough for me because I feel like they're in the weirdest way, like the best spot they could be in terms of like the expectations are always high, but they're probably lower than they've ever been for a Lakers team just because of what they put out there last year. They weren't all the way healthy, whatever. They had to get used to each other, all that. Cool. I think Darvin Ham, as little as I know about him, I think he's a low profile head coach that is going to bring back just accountability and more of just a stable kind of accountable culture in LA, which is not really what they've been used to. I think that's kind of more of what they needed than like a splash of a big name or something.
Sure.
Russ is always going to say the right things, but I think I've been hearing him say things that I don't think I've heard him say before. Like he's kind of said things similar to that, but I think he's taking it to another level in terms of what he's actually willing to do. Like I think I heard him say that he'll come off the bench if I'm not mistaken. I think that came out recently. So I can't really gauge the Lakers right now. I really can't. I have no idea. I feel like they could be good and competitive in the weirdest way. I think Pat Bev, Russ, and Schroeder gives them just like this weird kind of options of like, okay, well, if you're stinking it up tonight, we can go with you. If you're, Pat Bev, we know you're going to give us energy and defense and stuff. So you kind of know what you're getting. And in the weirdest way, it is kind of versatile. Your guard rotation, it's not great shooting, as we know, but I just don't know. I don't know. I think they can get to the playoffs. To the finals, I'm pretty sure they're not going to the finals. That I'm pretty sure of. But I think they can get at least become a playoff team again.
Now, one more before we start getting to start bench cuts. And I had to think really hard about my start bench cuts, but the last time I asked you to compare the backcourts in Cleveland and Atlanta, and you were aghast that I was able to come up with that. So I had to think long and hard about some good ones. But the Warriors, when they're healthy, go to the finals. That is
they'll repeat. If the Warriors are healthy this year, they're going to repeat. I saw in Tokyo, I was watching them Tokyo highlights. James Wiseman,
so that was
to look better than they did last year, and that means they'll repeat.
What we've forgotten about the Warriors is that they do have this guy named James Wiseman who's been dealing with a couple injuries and he's been in the G League. He looked good in Tokyo so far. So I guess I don't have to ask because you already answered. But how nervous should we be about another Golden State?
I mean, if you're a diehard fan of another team or something, you should be extreme. I mean, look, it's there. If the Warriors stay healthy, they're going to repeat. It's there. They're still young. It's all there. And again, to repeat, you have to evolve at least a little bit. You have to keep a lot of what you already have. And then James Wiseman by himself might help them evolve. I also love Dante DiVincenzo out there. I forgot that they had picked him up. They're right where they need to be able to repeat. If they're healthy, they're going to do it because you can only look at, as I always say, it takes a monster to beat a monster. So the only people or teams that you could see actually giving them a run or a challenge are like if the Clippers are fully healthy and ready to go, they could present a challenge, And honestly, in the East, it's really just Giannis.
Yep.
Giannis is the sole immovable force that could wreck them kind of the way LeBron used to. And that's the kind of force it takes, unless you have like a team like the Spurs out there, which we don't really have, right? Like the Warriors are the Spurs, 5.0 right now. We don't have another version of that. So yeah, it's set up it's looking like I watched I watched some of that Tokyo film last night or so. I said, man, bro, is it June? Like they look like they
I mean, they were playing the Wizards, but they look great. They
look great. They look like they were in the finals last month. Like they haven't missed a beat, and then Steph is able to lob to Wise. They've got a big in there. It's like, geez.
And I think this would be the first time this entire run that they've had a big, like
a lob threat big.
Yeah, they've had Andrew Bogut. They had who they have before Bogut. Like they've had bigs, but this is the first.
like Jordan Bell was like a small ball big.
Yeah, but this is the
like
big, that is
this is a big.
That is a big that can bang down low, that can space up. Like this is scary. So let's get into some start bench cut. We'll start with 3 young guys that 2 of them are always kind of tied together, and one of them kind of has burst onto the scene a bit over the last couple seasons. Start bench cut: Luka Doncic, Trae Young, John Morant.
Wow. Jesus. So you're giving me ones where there's no right, there's no good answer. I am going to start Luka. I'm going to bench Trae Young, and I'm going to cut Ja, because me personally, I prefer shooting over most things. And so because of their shooting ability, I would rock more with having Luka and Trae on the squad as opposed to Ja.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. The Eastern Conference is filled with, I think now more than ever, a lot of capable sidekicks. We've seen 2 new duos form over the last couple months, obviously with Donovan Mitchell going to Cleveland, and of course DeJounte Murray being sent to Atlanta. So if we're looking at who I would say are already from us being established, the 3 solidified, solid second fiddle guys on their teams. Start bench cut: Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, Chris Middleton.
I'm starting Chris Middleton. I am benching Jaylen Brown, and I will cut Bam Adebayo. I really do love Bam, but he lost some juice for me in the playoffs last year. Yep. I wasn't, and I really got a lot lower on Miami as a whole. Like, they have such a good culture and system, but then when it came to it, I was like, and they took Boston to 7 games, but I picked Boston, and I like knew that Boston was going to win. Yeah, they were both so rugged. They both had their star players, whatever, but Miami didn't really have the continuity. Tyler Hero was out and stuff. Like, they need guys like Hero and Duncan Robinson to really like be in the mix. I wasn't all the way sold on Jimmy, even though he had his big games. I've had my kind of issues with Jimmy, but Bam didn't show me enough, and I think he can really do a lot. He can do a lot. He's very talented.
Sure,
but I think now, I'm a lot lower on Bam now. I gotta see him assert himself a little bit more and remind us like who he is, because I think he has so much ability, but I think he's getting into a territory where it's becoming a little unclear of like, okay, how good are you really?
There's three point guards in the Western Conference that are each coming off of injury and returning to their, well, one's on a new team, 2 of them are returning to their teams to try to make a splash. Jamal Murray, Damian Lillard, John Wall, start bench cut.
I would cut John Wall. You said Dame and who?
Jamal Murray.
Starting Dame, and I'm benching Jamal Murray.
That's fair. Look, it's weird because they're coaches. You can't start bench coaches, but we're gonna do it because I think it's worth it, and I think it's interesting. First of all, just let the record reflect. I love Tyronn Lue. I think Tyronn Lue is fantastic. I think he is a phenomenal head coach and deserves all of his flowers, and then some. I also think that right along with him, Eric Spoelstra is another underappreciated head coach in basketball today. A lot of people don't like the way that Miami plays basketball because it's very boring and kind of old school, but it works for them because they're in the playoffs and they're a top seed in the Eastern Conference, and also like in the NBA as well. And then you've got an old head that kind of gets out coached sometimes, but he's still a reliable coach, I guess, during the regular season anyway. So start bench cut: Tyronn Lue, Eric Spoelstra, Doc Rivers.
Ooh, I am starting Eric Spoelstra. I am benching Tyronn Lue, and I'm cutting Doc Rivers. A lot of people despise Doc Rivers. Like, they think he is just over. They're like, we only won one in Boston, and that was 2008. He hasn't won anything since. Like, people are hard on Doc. I like Doc, but I like those other 2 guys better.
Yep. Now, last one, We thought that this was going to be the next big three in basketball and was going to take over the league, and now two of them are on the same team. One of them's left. Start, bench, cut. KD, Kyrie, James Harden.
I am starting KD. I am benching Kyrie, and I am cutting James Harden.
Interesting. That's good. So when we talk about the Sixers now, because I do want to kind of talk about the Sixers a bit. The last time we were on the show, or maybe the time before, you've been on the show a lot. You've been on the show a lot more in the last 4 months than prior. So it's been the talks are running together. But one of the last times you were here, we were talking about James Harden. We were talking about what it took, what the Sixers would need from James Harden in order for them to be successful. And obviously now the training camp is back. You know, the NBA records and broadcasts training camps for all the teams on NBA TV. And there was a clip of Doc Rivers saying to James Harden, like, look, like,
yeah,
we know we're doing post first, but we still want you to get your looks and still be comfortable. He took a pay cut. PJ Tucker's there. Tyrese Maxey is obviously they're going to take this step forward, and obviously you have Joel Embiid. Are you sold on the Sixers in the East? I mean, I know we talk about how, you know, it's probably going to be the Bucks because Giannis is that unstoppable force, but are you sold on the Sixers in the East as far as their ability to potentially come out of the East if all of this can kind of mesh and all that stuff?
Yes, yeah, because Harden's coming back motivated. I know that. I don't know if I told you before he has to be elite. The Sixers are going to the finals, even the Eastern Conference Finals. He's got to get back to elite form. It doesn't have to be MVP Houston. Sure. It just has to be at least 20 a game, 8 assists. Like you've got to be the lead guard. I mean, I think they are set in making sure that Joel Embiid is known as the best player on the team. He's their best player. Sure. But it's no argument who the next guy is. And at times, James has to look like their best player. And Doc knows that. That's why I'm so glad you brought up that clip, because I was thinking about what we talked about when I was watching that. And it makes me think about what I've been talking about with James Harden going back to last year. I know he had his hamstring issues and stuff, but just his mentality as a hooper. I just thought he got too much into. Doc talked about it. He mentioned it in that clip. It's like, we know you're a great facilitator, but when he's in pass first mode, it's too obvious and it becomes too limited. Yep. And so as long as he has the mentality to still go out there and get 30 because he can pretty much anytime he wants. If it, you know, I mean, you don't have to, he doesn't have to ball hog to do it. You don't have to just like go iso ball all day just to get, you can get your 30 in a lot of ways. So just be productive, be aggressive. And he's going to do those things. PJ Tucker's a great addition. Tyrese Maxey's going to be even better. Yeah, no, they're. I mean, other than Milwaukee, it's Philly right after that. They're the biggest threat to Milwaukee for sure, or Miami, depending on who you think is the top team in the East. But no, Philly's in the top tier, and they should be expected to at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals. But it's only going to happen if James Harden is lit this season.
Yeah, there's 2 more starter bits cut. I did just want to kind of go on that tangent because I remember that conversation we had when I saw that clip, and I wanted to talk to you about it. The first one is duos. Let's rank 3 duos. We talked about 2 of them already before with Donovan Mitchell and Garland, and of course Young and Murray. But there's another duo I think in the Eastern Conference that kind of gets overlooked sometimes that I think could be worth talking about right now. So start, bench, cut. Cleveland's duo of Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Atlanta's duo of Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, and Chicago's duo of DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine.
Yeah. I thought that's who you were talking about. I am starting DeRozan and LaVine. I'm benching Garland and Mitchell, and I'm cutting Trae Young and Murray.
Why are we starting LaVine and DeRozan?
Well, they're the only duo out of those 3 that we've seen play together so far. The other 2 duos are brand new. We've still yet to see them, even though we both agree that they'll be great duos. They'll be great with each other. But that's one reason. We've seen what they do. And then I love that they're both wings. I love that they're both scoring wings. I become a little biased. I'm not going to lie. Like I was a shooting guard. I was a wing. Like I pick players that either play my position or remind me of myself or just, stylistically it can get a little objective. But no, I love that they're both wings. I love that they both score. The two of them, I love the 2 of them together. It's lethal. It's like it's so lethal.
And last but not least, there was a time when big men ruled the NBA, and it seems like that's not the case anymore. But there's still 3 big men that are at the top of their game. Start, bench, cut, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic.
Wow. That's funny. Oh, wow. So you consider Giannis a big man. That's interesting.
I mean, I know the wing, but it's like he's also super big. Like it's hard, and it's hard to for me. I'll be honest. It is hard for me to. I saw somewhere that like if we're being positionless, like let's be honest. If we're talking about big men, like Giannis is a 3, but he's not a 3 because he's 7 feet tall, which means he's got to be traditionally a 4. But then when you think about it, the way that the Bucks are constructed, he only plays the 4 because they have a guy in Brook Lopez who can like do the jump balls and be that big man. So Giannis is really a center that's just super lengthy. It can do all these incredible things. It's amazing. So in my eyes, yes, I look at Giannis and I say he's a big. I think Giannis is a big. I don't think KD is a big because KD's not Giannis's size, even though they're similar height. But like Giannis is a big dude. Like so, yeah. I do. I look at when I list bigs, I think of Giannis. I put him in there with AD, and I think of Giannis as a big right along with him. So, yeah.
Rashad Phillips would call Giannis. He's the master, so he would know best. But he would either fall in the dual forward category or hybrid post category. Yeah. And hybrid post is more like a Bam who plays more back to the basket. Well, Giannis plays back to the basket, so but yeah, Giannis is tough. Yeah, it's very hard.
It's hard to place him, but he's a big dude. I'm looking at him as a big, yeah.
I'm starting Giannis. I am benching Jokic, and I'm cutting Embiid. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever said this publicly. I don't know if anyone ever asked me, but I think I am Jokic over Embiid, yo. I'm biased for passing. So if you're a great passer, I'm gonna rock with the better. And Embiid can pass too, but Jokic can score, he can shoot, and his passing is just OD. So yeah, I'm biased towards passers.
It makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Well, yeah, it's always a pleasure to have Martin on the show. Like, and it's just great. We've been talking for an hour, and I don't even feel like we've been talking for an hour. It's been incredible. As always, man, let everybody know where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, man, always my pleasure. Thanks. Always great to be on GOAT Talk, man. This is the best place to be for sports fans to tap in, man, because you do a great job. So always great to be here. You can find me on Instagram at martin.soaries. Basketball Society on YouTube. We have the Basketball Society podcast and a whole lot of other stuff. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Basketball Society. That's really all you have to do. Stay tapped in.
Yeah, I need to get me a Basketball Society like shirt and hoodie. I've been thinking.
Oh, that's all you had to say. I got hoodies for you. What size you need?
I think I wear like a
large, medium,
a large. Yeah.
Say no more.
I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I gotta get me like a couple hoodies.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah, I gotta get you hooked up. That's
it's always a pleasure to have Martin on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk hoops with Martin off camera and of course, especially on camera. He's very good at what he does, and sometimes I try to stump him, and sometimes I succeed. Sometimes look when you're talking to someone that's really good at that craft, and he can do like you give them like further their eyebrow and like take a double take on something. I know I've done something right. So getting Martin to kind of take a pause before he drops an answer makes me feel like I've given a good question. So it's
better and better, man. Better and better every time.
I'm trying. I'm trying my best. But yeah, you guys know where to find me: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at GTP Marcus. You can follow on Facebook. I had a couple people ask because my Facebook and my Instagram are linked now until it's October. I changed the logo. There's a lot of people that didn't know I was a junior. Yeah, I'm a junior. It popped up on Instagram now as my name. It changed the Go Talk Marcus thing, and it's my name. It says Dwayne Marcus Jr. because that's my name on Facebook, so that people don't think I'm my dad, right? To get the differentiation. So people are like, you're a junior? Yes, I'm a junior. I'm one of 2 juniors in my family. My cousin's also a junior, and he was born before me, so they call him DJ, and I'll never let that go because I cannot be DJ, but it's fine. It's perfectly fine. But it's always a pleasure. Like I said, Martin and I are going to try to get this going more frequently, which is kind of why I've been doing this. The first time he was on the show, which was like an interview thing, and we kind of had a small little GOAT debate with LeBron and Jordan. But basketball's back, and there's a lot of things to talk about. And you guys know me. Typically, I don't do much basketball until after Christmas because there's all the football stuff. But going to try to do a lot more basketball stuff throughout the course just before Christmas as well, because it's basketball. And when you've got a guy like Martin Soaries who knows basketball really well and loves talking about basketball, it's really easy to just say, hey man, let's let's talk about basketball. So it's always a pleasure. So for Martin Soaries of the Basketball Society, this is Marcus, or Go Talk with Marcus signing off. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, you guys do the rest.